This reading is going to probably, for a lot of you, explain some of the things you've been going through. You might have noticed that you've been a little bit in your head, maybe a little bit ungrounded. Your body might be feeling a little bit off. Sometimes we manifest lessons and transformation physically. You may have been noticing that you've been waking up either in the morning or staying up at night worrying, and there's just this kind of like unsettled feeling you might have. All of it is for actually a good reason, believe it or not. And this reading is going to help illuminate why you're feeling that way, what you can do about it, and how it's going to serve you in the coming months and along your journey through life in general. It's a fantastic month of abundance and transcendence and transformation and clarity. And there are so many beautiful blessings associated with this powerful new moon in Virgo. And what I'm going to do now, my friends, is break this reading down into 5 more specific themes to give you more understanding about what this new moon is all about. Theme number 1, rising above anxiety, worry, any state of dis-ease, discomfort associated with the future or maybe what's going on presently in your life. You may find that during powerful astrology, whether it's a new moon or a full moon or especially an eclipse, you're like more on edge. And a lot of times though, it's kind of a blessing because there's also with this feeling, as I mentioned, an element of awareness. And sometimes this awareness allows you to see that a lot of that worry and anxiety has no basis in reality. It's more so an echo from the past, something that may have happened to you maybe decades ago that was kind of an issue, was a formidable challenge that warranted these feelings of worry and anxiety, etc. But what you might find is that they come back. There are echoes. There's a residual from something that has already happened. And the reason it's there, the reason it comes back is because there's probably some element of resistance when it happens, some like denial or repression or not allowing us to fully integrate and process whatever the experience was. So we find ourselves for no real reason at all feeling anxious. And the mind is so clever. The mind will usually find little things in your life to justify the worry, but sometimes, during like a new moon, you'll find that this anxiety, these feelings are not in proportion to even what your mind is claiming is the alleged cause. So right now is a fantastic time to examine your state of being. Why do I feel this way? Where am I carrying stress in my body? Is a good exercise. My breathwork instructor always says, where is the stress located? I did this little scan the other day and I found it was all in my head, my mind. And sometimes when you pinpoint it in the body, you can kind of tune into it. And the funny thing is sometimes when you tune into it, you see like there's really nothing to worry about. For example, I woke up earlier than I was hoping to today in my head, worried with this like worry energy. And I was like, why do I feel so worried? And I sat with it and I realized it was the stupidest, smallest reason. And for me, as an example, I wear this Invisalign. I take it off during my videos, but anyway, I have to pick up new trays like every week from my dentist, and I've been traveling. So I've been going back and forth with my dentist quite a few times on the phone for just rescheduling appointments and things like that. And anyway, I realized I have to call them to get another tray. And I woke up worried. The worry, what it was, is I don't want to call the dentist too much because they might find me annoying and not like me. And it's like, really? Is that a reason to like lose sleep, Vic? No, it's not. But the anxiety is heightened. It's a disproportionate feeling of anxiety associated with a very small thing. When I realize I'm a paying customer, I can call them. They don't like me, no big deal. And it's going to be nothing. But the point is, that was like a metaphor for you. You might have a similar finding if you examine your own worries, fears, doubts, anxieties, See if they really have a basis in reality. And when you find that they don't, even if that energy is still there a little bit, you get to rise above it. Number 2, I wrote down caring for your body. Sometimes powerful transformation will play out, as you know, in your life through circumstances that resemble this internal process you're going through. But also this same exact phenomenon can happen to you on a physical level. You might feel, and it can be kind of it can be counterintuitive, because on one hand you might think that something's like up with your body. Like, for example, years ago I was getting all these rashes, these like rashes that were just driving me nuts, and none of the creams worked, and I would just sit there suffering. I've gone through phases where I've gotten a lot of bug bites, and it's always like, why am I feeling so uncomfortable, basically. And sometimes it's just kind of a metaphor for old energies purging out of your system. Nothing to necessarily look into heavily. It's more so just, again, it's a physical reflection of like this transformation you're going through on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. So if you find yourself manifesting sort of odd, ailments, we'll say, tune into it, I recommend. Sometimes it's a message that you're doing something, that there's a misalignment. A lot of times, again, it's just a purge. And the more uncomfortable you are, the more of that shadow you're releasing out of your system for good. Now, it's also similar to the theme, but also very different. It's a great time to listen to your body. And maybe your body is telling you it needs more rest, more downtime. Maybe your body's telling you to chill out on the ice cream sandwiches at night or whatever. Maybe your body's telling you that it's calling for more like fruits and vegetables and vitamins. Maybe you feel called to do my wife was talking about a parasite detox. It's a great time to really nurture your body and to feed it good, simple, nutritious stuff, basically. And you might find that, I know I was a personal trainer for a long time, man. And if I could get people to like cut out the processed food and eat, regardless of your preference, whether you're a vegan or vegetarian or paleo or whatever, I found that most people, if they just eat real foods, devoid of the impurities that are now so prevalent, and especially here in America, it's like they come to life. It's like their body is like, thank you, God. I've been screaming for this. I've been begging for this, and in a million different ways. And now once you finally give your body what it wants, what it thrives on, you're like a different person. You feel like you've regressed in 10 years in age. You have the wind is back in your sails, and you're feeling like $1,000,000. And now's a great time to really care for your body. You might find also that it's going to be necessary because, and I'm not going to even talk about this in this reading, but it's also a time to really start taking your purpose more seriously. You might find like there's new projects you're going to be doing or putting your energy into, and there's a lot to manage with your life. But if your body's like not firing on all cylinders, that's a big problem. So now's a really good time to really it's like an oil change for your body in whatever way that will resonate with you. It's important to kind of do this in your own way. And the nice thing is, whatever your body needs, usually there'll be some kind of problem, some kind of fatigue or something, paired with almost like an inspiration to do something. For example, I juiced yesterday. I've owned this same juicer for like 13 years to be exact. And I've not used it in probably 2 or 3 years. But yesterday I felt called to make a juice, and I'm kind of cleaning up my own diet, and it's not something I'm doing in like a resentful way. It's actually exciting to me, and I feel so good. So you might find that whatever it is your body needs, it'll also come to you in kind of an excitement, something that you feel, enthused to do. Theme number 3, I put down going back to school. This doesn't mean literally, even though a lot of people will be going back to school. It is that time. My kids just started a couple of weeks ago. What I mean by going back to school is there are different seasons in our life, in our spiritual awakening especially, and a lot of us were in a season of doing, action, manifestation, and that's fantastic, but also it can sometimes be a little bit in balance, which is okay. That there is balance and imbalance. That's why we have these seasons. But if we're doing a lot of work and putting it into doing a lot of action, sometimes what gets neglected is our inner work. So right now is a good time to, if you feel called, to do a little bit of inner work, whatever that means for you. Like last Sunday, a couple days ago, I hopped on and did like this breathwork session with my instructor. And as I was on the session, I realized how long it's been since I'm a breathwork instructor, and I have not done breathwork in quite a while. And I had to kind of make myself do it. I didn't want to because, it's not fun always doing shadow work. But anyway, I made myself show up for this thing, and I did it, and I felt awesome. I felt it was like just what the doctor ordered. So it's a good time to do shadow work. And now I also want to bring a mention of this because some of you may have been doing a lot of shadow work as like the last, weeks, month, whatever. And what I found, it's very reminiscent of what I used to feel as well. But a lot of people I find that when they feel called to go into these periods of shadow work, and kind of like I said before, if you're doing a lot of stuff action-wise, your shadow work's neglected. And if you're doing a lot of shadow work, you might feel like there's more you should be doing in your life, in your business, with your job, with your house, whatever it is. But it's very important to honor these seasons because taking time off from the other things that most people think are more important to do this, to go on this sort of shadow work tangent is a good thing. Because if what we're doing when it is time to act is not from a place of groundedness, a place of authenticity, then it's not really efficient or productive in the long run. You can be busy, but actually not getting anything done at the same time. So taking time away to do the shadow work and to work on yourself, to look at yourself, to become more clear, to become more aligned with your true self. And then when you go back into action mode, you're going to be like Johnny on the spot. Everything you do is going to have the backing of yourself, your soul, the universe, and it's like a race car driver that goes around the track over and over and over and over and over again. You see them sometimes. I don't watch these races, but some people do, and I know this happens. They'll stop off, and everyone else is still driving, and they've stopped. They pulled over to the side of the track, and all the guys come out, and the people they're fixing the tires and whatever they do there, and then they get back out on the road. And now I don't think a race car driver would do that if it really meant losing the race. They know, you know what? I'm starting to be less refined in my action. I need to step away. So it's okay to step away. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty. Don't let your mind tell you you should be doing more. Don't let your mind start comparing yourself to other people. Honor your own process. Honor your own journey. And I'm telling you, if you can just yield to these seasons of shadow work, you'll find that when it is time, and the time will come, when it is time to go back into action, you're going to feel like $1 million. You're going to get more done in one day than you would have in about a week if you forced it. Lastly, with this theme of going back to school, it's also a good time to literally go back to school in terms of like education. It's a good time to learn something new. I know a lot of you are hopefully starting to really heed the call to get into action with your purpose. And you might find that you become a coach or a healer or a psychic. You're doing something expressive with your creative energy. And it's fantastic. There's a time to do that. But it's also good to always remain a student. There's a quote I heard long ago. You may have heard it. And the quote is this: "What is a master but a student of a master?" The day we think we know it all, the day we don't think we have anything yet to learn, is the day our mastery goes away and is replaced by like ego, essentially, arrogance, destined to be humbled by life. We can keep ourselves humble by realizing there's always more to learn about ourselves, always more to learn about life. It's just really great to be a student, always. And you also might find this comes to you in an exciting way. It often does for me. It comes in these waves where I feel excited to learn something new. And if that's you, if something has presented itself for you, go for it. Take the time to do it. It's going to serve you in the long run, just as the shadow work will as well. Number 4, back to nature. It's a good time to go back to nature, nature being a metaphor for simplicity. And it's a great time, and you'll probably find yourself doing this naturally, looking around at your life and realizing all the different things that are happening and going on a regular basis in your life, in your schedule, in your calendar, the things you're putting energy into. You'll be able to really accurately assess what is actually meaningful to you, what is really important, and what is just kind of like busy work. And it's a great time to kind of reorganize yourself. And you might find it's so common. It's so common to very quickly accumulate different, energetic investments in our life. And it's very easy nowadays, especially, to have our plate overflowing with stuff, and we can feel overwhelmed. Maybe you feel overwhelmed, like, I don't have enough time, Vic. I'm so busy. And whenever I feel that way, it's almost always because there are certain things I'm doing that I don't actually need to be doing, that are not truly in alignment with my core values, with where I'm heading in life. I do this all the time within my business, but also within my life, within my relationships, within just, again, the things I'm putting my energy into. And ironically, a lot of what we're seeking in all this doingness, this busyness, is something that's there naturally: peace, joy, fulfillment, in the simplicity, in the mundane. My wife and I just got done watching this really awesome Netflix 4-part documentary series about the blue zones. If you don't know what the blue zones are, they're like small locations on the planet where the people living there live noticeably longer than like the average of the entire planet. And this one guy went around to I think 5 or 6 different blue zones, and he studied them, and he talked to the people. Some of these people, they're 100 years old, and they're riding horses, swinging machetes, and they're not only are they like beasts in their own right physically, but they have this life, they have this vibrancy to them, this aliveness, this happiness, and it's just so inspiring. And anyway, this guy was boiling it down, and he found there's a lot of commonalities between these blue zones, even though they eat kind of different foods, they're in different parts of the planet, totally different cultures. There's a few things that are very prevalent in all of them. One of them is ikigai, which I think is a Japanese term for purpose. I think they also went to Switzerland or something, or no, it was Costa Rica, and they also have another word for it. But almost all these people, they wake up with a sense of purpose. And I don't mean purpose like they're all high-level online coaches. I mean they wake up and they tend to their garden. They wake up and they work on their farm. They wake up and they provide for their family. Purpose, something like a reason to give up, a contribution. They all have that. They also all had community, which I know is a tough one for spiritual folks. You might feel like an outsider. That's one we can all work on maybe, and maybe come together more, reach out and make it happen. But anyway, community. So purpose, doing something that means something to you, community. And they all ate healthy foods, very natural, basic foods, simple. They all had kind of a simple diet in their own way. And even a little bit of wine was incorporated, which is okay, I think. But it was from the earth. It was in Switzerland, I believe. And then another thing they did was they had fun. They made time. They worked hard, but they made time for fun. A lot of them, they would dance with their friends and get together at barbecues. And anyway, so those are all things that don't require. A lot of the stuff we do is not essential for those simple things that lead to not only the good life, but a long life, a prosperous life. And sometimes these new moons come in and they disrupt our lives. They make us feel uncomfortable. They make us feel off. They make us feel overwhelmed. And we want to blame the energies. When will it pass? When will it be over? It'll be over when we get the message. Finally, number 5, and some of you aren't going to believe this, but take it for what it's worth. It's what I felt called to say. Harvest. It's a time of harvest, a time of abundance, a time of manifestation. And if there's one thing I learned about abundance and manifestation, is that it can come when you least expect it. Sometimes things aren't always as they seem in your life. And it only takes pretty much one moment, one instance of perfect timing for many things that seem unrelated to kind of swarm together and create this kind of wave of abundance. It reminds me of when I used to be a medical marijuana grower. I used to grow weed for a living. That was one of my jobs. And I really liked, I kind of missed it, honestly, because it taught me so many things about life. One of them was patience. If any of you weed growers are out there, you know there are so many different stages. There's like the seedling stage when they're itty little babies. You got to nurture them and have them under kind of a dim light, and you got to water them multiple times a day. But then they go into the vegetation stage where they're growing very rapidly. You brighten up the lights and you feed them more nutrients and they get really big. Then there's the flowering stage where they start growing the buds, the stuff we actually smoke, and that's a really exciting phase. And then like the last, a lot of novice growers, they make the mistake of picking their marijuana about 1 week too soon because it kind of looks done on the surface, but it's not. But if you just wait and you can check almost like on the little crystals, the trichomes they call it, there is like this perfect little window when it's like the day to pick. And if you were patient, it's just one day you chop that plant down and all of a sudden you went from having no ganja to maybe several pounds of ganja in one day, one chop. Maybe not the best metaphor, but anyway, it's like that. So you might look around and feel like I got nothing going for me, nothing's working, nothing, yada, yada. You don't know. There are things you might not see that could work in your favor and click into place. Oftentimes that's how it is. Just because our mind can't always see the abundance we have, it doesn't mean it's not actually there. But this is a time where you might have, again, one of these waves of abundance. And every time this happens to me, because this happens to me all the time, where I feel like nothing's working, yada, yada, and then all of a sudden, like I get a phone call or a text or a look online or some little thing happens that I didn't expect, and all of a sudden it leads to this like expansive abundance feeling, but also literal abundance. And every time that happens to me, I'm always like telling myself, Victor, you got to just relax. Just trust. We are always provided for. We're always provided for. And a lot of times abundance comes in many forms. Abundance here in like America, most people, they associate it with the number in your bank account. How much money do you have? That's one form of abundance. But abundance is having what you need when you need it. And I've gone through a lot of different phases in my spiritual journey, times when I've had, material comfort, and times when I've been completely broke and in credit card debt. And I've kind of gone up and down a few different times throughout my journey. And what I found is that I've always had the things that really matter. I've always had my family along with me. And you know what? Whether we were living in a 21-foot RV or living in a nice home, we do every Friday, we go out to eat. And there are times where we'd go out to like a nice dinner, and there's times where we'd go and we get carry out at a food truck. Kind of the same thing. Because we were together, there was laughter, usually a little bit of rummy. We play rummy like fiends. We play a lot of the card game rummy, and togetherness. And then we'd go on a walk. There were times where we'd go on a walk up the mountains, times we'd go on a walk in the dead of winter in Michigan, bundled up. But what was there, what was always present, was the abundance of love, of togetherness, of laughter, of playfulness. Abundance is getting the right information that you need at the time you need it. And our mind can sort of worry because it thinks it's going to eventually need something and it's not there, but it usually does come when you actually need it. Perfect timing, divine timing. We all have. That's abundance. To know that we have this internal compass that leads us wherever we need to go, whenever we need to go somewhere, it leads us there, usually in a fairly obvious and sort of intuitive way. We don't have to think so much. We don't have to fret so much. That's abundance. We're on a computer right now. Most of us are a phone. That's abundant. That's a gateway to anything you need to learn or know in life. You can Google it right now. If you're watching this, you are abundant. You could do anything. I remember I used to take these free Harvard college courses online. You can probably still do it from my phone. That's abundance. I didn't have to pay a cent, but I could listen in on these recorded lectures. We are abundant. And sometimes it's just a matter of perspective. And if the new moon can help us broaden our definition of abundance, that's also a sense of harvest. That's a wave of abundance that's been right under our nose the entire time. Thank you for watching, my friends. Before you go, I'm going to offer you a free guided meditation I made myself. It helps people connect with their higher self. You can check it out if that resonates. I'll leave a link down below. I basically made it so people who are feeling kind of off, especially during times like this, can just simply download it, listen to it, and I promise you, it will put you into a space of intuitive centeredness and clarity. I've had thousands upon thousands of people go through it. The feedback has been fantastic. Again, it's totally free. I made it myself. I'll leave a link down below. Check it out if you're interested. And if not, I'll see you next week, my friends. Have an amazing day, an amazing month. Much love.